I'm Dan Albers, and welcome to the Big Guy Sports Podcast or This Week in Anderson on the Big Guy Sports Podcast on USPN Sports. And as always, I'm joined with my co-host, Steve Ellis. And Steve, I'm excited to have our next guest, Lauren. She was a great athlete at Anderson, playing a couple sports. She played basketball and soccer, and so it's always nice when we get people that we know of and heard of, but to get a little bit more in detail, it's nice, and also to have them in studio.
No question. And I remember watching Lauren play. I mean, she was tough as nails in both sports. She probably could have played 4 or 5 sports, but that era, Danny, if you recall, was really good for all sports at Anderson on both sides, men's and women's. But her, especially, was like cream of the crop of the females going through the school there at Anderson.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll get into all that here in a few minutes. So as we said, joining us is Lauren Gruber Jordan, and Lauren, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're really excited. So take us back to the days growing up in Anderson and what that was like. And Steve and I always ask what side you grew on. I was on the Summit side, so just kind of explain to everybody what side of Anderson you're on.
Sure. I grew up on the Maddox side. My parents are still over there in the house that I grew up on.
Okay.
And growing up in Anderson, I feel like it was kind of the quintessential experience. Just great community feel, a lot of parent involvement. Everyone's all invested in the schools and the sports, and it really, when you think about just the experience of what that's like now as an adult looking back on it, I don't think you quite appreciate it while you're going through it. I knew it was special.
Right.
I loved it, but now as an adult, I think that you have kind of a greater appreciation for what that was like, and those days were fun. I would definitely go back and do most of them again.
Who were some of your teammates or classmates that lived near you that you hung out and grew up with?
Sure. So Kim Rosser was my grade. She's one of my best friends. We played soccer and basketball together at Anderson, and also club soccer.
Okay.
And then her dad coached us in a grade school team, a Park District team,
Chip.
which I've got a great
legend.
Yes, he was. I got a couple good stories about our youth rec team that I'll have to get to. But Christian Schaefer, her brother Derek played football. Christian and I played soccer together at Anderson. Corey Galvin, we played soccer and basketball together at the high school. Yeah, and then we played club soccer together, and then Corey and I actually played club soccer at Ohio State together as well. And roomed together our freshman year. So we go way back. Kara Bowinger played soccer with us. Those were kind of some of our core players that we played with both high school and club.
Okay.
And then Quincy Deeds, married to Chris. Well, I should say Quincy Norwell now.
That's right.
Married to Chris. We played basketball together. Corey also played basketball, like I said. And a few of the girls we were kind of talking about.
Corey, she just got married, right?
She did, last October. Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Yes. Yeah. I work with both of them at CRC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did that part-time. So
that's right. That's where they met.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. You're throwing all these names out. It's like bringing it back now.
I feel like that's Anderson for you. So
one way or the other, we know somebody.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
So when you were growing up, and we know you played basketball and soccer, were there any other sports you played?
I played softball growing up.
Okay.
I played kind of just like rec stuff, and then did play for a select team for a while. But just soccer and basketball were my favorite sports, and so just as you get older, that you got to kind of pick a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I went with soccer and basketball. Probably around 5th, 6th grade, I stopped softball.
Okay. So when you were at Maddox, and we've asked this a bunch of different people of the time era, I should say, did you go, Nagel wasn't open yet, right?
So my grade of 03, we were the last grade to go all the way through Anderson 7 to 12.
Okay.
Wow.
So yes, so we were the last ones, and now that I'm a high school teacher and thinking about having like little seventh graders walking the halls with 18-year-olds is a little dicey. But yeah, we were the last grade to do that.
Well, how was that back then? I mean, do you remember like the kids walking around?
Yeah. I mean, just you were definitely intimidated. I mean, you think about especially just the 7th grade boys. Are still pretty tiny, and walking around with like these big football guys. And just you definitely, I think probably behaved a little bit better. Being kind of socially checked by some of the older people. But it was, and I was in a couple classes that went out to the annex because there outdoors. So when they had people, they had classes in the annex out in the parking lot, that building like back behind the soccer field. I don't even know if that building,
used to be the old school board.
Oh, the district.
They called it the
office.
annex.
Yeah.
And in 7th grade, I had
I forgot about that.
my English, my social studies, my math class out there.
Really?
So you had
they
to
had us
walk
out there for 3 bells.
How'd that work out during the winter?
It was terrible. I mean, it wasn't that far of a walk, but it was far enough to be annoying in the winter.
Wow.
We've talked about this with Coach Bart. Was we went to Anderson Middle School, and that was just the coolest thing to have the high school behind us and that middle school right there, and just how neat that was. And I just can't even imagine in 7th grade going in. I can't even imagine that.
I know it was thinking back on it. Yeah, it was pretty crazy to do that. But I mean, you didn't think anything of it at the time, really.
Yeah.
They did a pretty good job of kind of having lockers congregated together. But you were certainly in the hallway and lunch with all the older kids.
That is crazy.
I'm sure there are some things that happened that probably weren't good.
I wouldn't be going to the bathroom. I wouldn't be going to the library.
Well, I just remember when I was when we were freshmen and my brother was a senior and we used
you
to
were
get
too afraid.
I was scared as a freshman.
Let alone as a 7th grader.
Yeah.
Can't even imagine.
Wow. All right.
That's pretty crazy.
So before we get into some of the sports you played at the high school, I want to go ahead and let's hear this story about Chip.
Okay, so Mr. Rosser coached us in an Anderson Park district team from 3rd grade to 6th grade, and we also played in like some CYO teams. And it was mostly some Maddox girls, and then a couple of girls that we played club soccer with who went to Sherwood or GA or Mercer's, like some of the other elementary schools. But just a team of pretty good athletes, pretty competitive, and Mr. Rosser was a great coach. He taught me how to do a layup. He taught me how to shoot my jump shot. But we just clicked really well, and by the time we got to 5th grade in the Anderson Park district, we were just crushing teams.
Really?
And the Park district told us that if we wanted to continue playing in the league, that as 5th graders we had to play in the 8th grade girls tournament.
What? Wow.
And so we did, and we won as 5th graders. And they said that the only way we were allowed back is if in 6th grade we played in the boys league.
That is crazy.
So in 6th grade we played in the boys league.
No way.
Yes, and we went probably about 500, and we had like some of the local news come to our game.
Really?
And the big game was against Ty Hall's team. Because Ty was he was tall back then, but that was something that we'll never forget.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, basically got kicked out of the girls league, and they were like, you can only play if you play in the boys league.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we were the Slam. That was our name.
Wow. Talk about bragging rights.
That's crazy.
They printed out, Mr. Rosser and our assistant coaches printed out stats for us after every game, and he was the best.
That's awesome.
So,
he was a big booster too. A great guy.
Yeah.
Great parent.
Yeah.
Great kid.
I just knew him through Brent because of Timmy, because Timmy played. Played with him. So that was
that's incredible. All right, so let's get into your high school career playing basketball and playing for Coach Carletti. Because like I said, beginning it was a great era because there was a good run with the Quincy Deeds and yourself and Loopy behind you and on. There's some great players, but you had some pretty good teams from what I remember. But I specifically remember you. So talk a little bit about your playing career at Anderson, playing for Carletti.
So my freshman year was Carletti's first year at Anderson. He had came over from Turpin, and he took both the coaching job and the math job to coach and teach here. And it was a little bit of a rebuild. That first couple years for sure. He kind of cleaned house a little bit, and there were 4 or 5 of us freshmen that made varsity our freshman year, and there were a couple of us that started. It was pretty pretty raw.
So
and kind of rebuilding the beginning, and that was, I don't know if you remember, that was when we played in the FAVC versus Mason, and that was Michelle Munoz.
Yes.
And that team that had like their 7th person off the bench went like D1.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
They would fill that arena up there.
Yeah. So, we played in a pretty tough league, but by the time we got to kind of our junior year, we definitely were, competing with some of the other teams in the league. But I played mostly shooting guard, kind of the 2 position, but would play 1 through 4, just kind of depending on, the situation of the game. But Carletti was tough. I remember leaving practice and going home and saying to my mom, like, Mom, I think more at basketball practice than I do at school. school. Like, he was really challenging and knew the game in and out. Just total math guy, and he would like break down, how many possessions you should have in a game and how long he just, it just taught me more about basketball than I realized at the time. And he was tough, but looking back at it, was probably one of my favorite coaches I've ever had.
That's great. That's awesome. Who was his assistant coach back then?
Tanya Kincaid.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that she's still coach in middle school?
She's varsity assistant right now.
Okay. Yeah, so she was his assistant. And then John Raymond was the JV coach, I believe.
That's what I thought.
There are a couple other guys involved.
Jim Fay.
Yes.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a great kind of nucleus of girls, and that first year was hard. I mean, we were definitely young and inexperienced and trying to kind of absorb. I mean, I remember we would go into, before practice, we would go into one of the rooms right next to the AD's office. I don't know, I haven't been up to the school in a while, and we would just take all these notes on plays and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, it was intense. Yeah, it was. And it was cool. I still have the notebooks, actually.
Do you really?
Yeah, to this day.
Who was the coach before him? This would have been, I guess, your 7th and 8th grade year.
I think it was Carrie Erickson. Is that name
That's exactly right.
Familiar?
Good call.
Yeah, I think that's who that was.
Yep.
Wow.
Brian Jude had been our coach in 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah.
And so then Carletti came in our freshman year.
Okay.
And he did a great job with the program.
Okay.
He really did.
Yeah.
Yep, he did.
Wow.
Yeah.
So some of the players that you played with, like your senior year, who was like on your team? You remember
my senior year? Yeah. So we would have been Quincy, obviously, Corey Galvin, who I mentioned, Jennifer Williams, Allison Lupariello. Trying to think. Sarah Bove played. Gosh, I probably should have looked at it. It's been a minute. I'm like my 20-year anniversary or high school anniversary here in the next year, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
Yes, that makes me feel old.
Yeah, well, take a look around.
Yeah, look at us. Look at us.
Yeah, it was a good group though. It was a lot of fun.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep. So we were in the FAVC, so we were playing, Winton Woods, Harrison,
Mason,
Glen Estee, Mason, Amelia, before Glen Estee and Amelia merged. Obviously.
Wasn't Glen Estee pretty decent back then?
They were. They had a really good player named Sam Riley.
Yeah, I do remember her.
Yeah, she was really athletic. She played soccer too, so we competed against each other in those couple sports for 4 years. But she was dynamite. She went to play somewhere for a couple years, but I forget where it was, a smaller school in Ohio somewhere. But they were good for a while.
Yeah, I think Jeff Click was the coach then, and he's still coaching at West Claremont.
Right.
Okay.
He's been here a while.
He's been here a long time.
So let's get into your the soccer. And I was trying to think back then, and I couldn't remember who was your coach back then.
There were a few coaches. My freshman and sophomore year was Ted Benedetto, and then my junior and senior year was Jim Calder.
Okay.
So so we had a little bit of turnover there, but it was a lot of that. Playing with some of the older girls was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just getting to kind of experience that through their lens. And again, we had kind of a nucleus of freshmen that made varsity their freshman year, and I was a goalkeeper.
Oh, really?
So I played goalkeeper. I'd specialized in that since probably about the 4th or 5th grade. So that was really the only thing that I had played. So, same league. Mason was really good. Turpin had a good girls team. A lot of the girls on Turpin's team from my grade played club with me. We played for the Cardinals, who folded and became OE, Ohio Elite now.
Right.
But when we were there at the Cardinals, that group, a lot of them went to Turpin. They probably had 4 or 5 girls, and then we had 4 from our same team. So
Cardinals, that was like
it was the big thing back then.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. Our 8th grade year, we won state and went to regionals, and so it was a lot of fun kind of being able to come into the high school scene, having had some of that success. And, obviously the upperclassmen put you through a little bit, they test you a little bit. And so it's kind of nice to coming in just to have a little bit of, success that we could, showcase and say that we were, wanted to be a part of the team and be able to contribute. So.
Wow. So what was were you guys over 500?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, as we got older, we got better. Both as soccer and basketball teams, we were relatively young for that first year or two. But girls soccer in Cincinnati is lights out. Right. Even to this day, I was coaching at Wyoming for 6 or 7 years. I'm not doing it anymore, but it's even now. It's really strong. Great youth programs. Right. I mean, it's tough. If you can get out of Cincinnati in the tournament, then you got a shot to make a run.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But yeah, it was good competition, a lot of fun, playing under the lights. Anderson was one of the only grass fields actually at one of the last grass fields to have. But now it's obviously all turf.
So it went turf at some point. Was it during or right after you got out of high school?
Right after we left. Yeah, I think the grade after me was the first year that played on the turf.
I think it was like Kurt Shoemaker's senior year.
You know what though? But I kind of like that stadium up there by the baseball field. I really liked it. The atmosphere and the way it was set up. Yeah, I really liked it. I mean,
it was cool.
It's just
I remember being sad when they kind of got rid of that and went to the turf down. Now it's obviously all most people do, but yeah, it was kind of cool to have that up there, just your own setting. The grass was pretty nice actually. They did a decent. The goal boxes were always a little.
It's so funny how it's kind of flip flopped. So my daughter graduated last year from Anderson, played soccer, and like one of the only schools, Coleraine and Seton had grass fields, and you go over there and you kick the ball and it only goes like 4 feet, especially when they don't cut it. It's so thick, it's so, so different.
Well, everyone's used to playing on turf now.
That's what I mean. So, everything is so.
Yeah, it is. You have to almost practice to go play on grass these days, and they don't really keep the fields in that great a condition anymore, just because most people are on turf and they're used to playing that, that fast pace.
Yep.
So it's definitely different kind of game sometimes when you're doing that.
Wow.
I know back in the day when Steve and I would play, the transition that we'd have, because we played, multiple sports as well. And then the transition from like when I was playing football into basketball, it's a different mentality. How was that transition for you going from, the soccer to the basketball? Was that kind of a hard thing, or was it pretty?
It was usually pretty seamless, just in the sense that I felt like the fact that I was a goalkeeper translated really well to basketball. Just a lot of hand-eye coordination, your footwork, just kind of the anticipation. But it's a different kind of shape. There's no question. Especially as a goalkeeper, sure. I'm not running up and down the soccer field. But I oftentimes would get shin splints from going from the grass to the basketball court. That always gave me some difficulty. But Carletti used to always joke that he was coaching the wrong sport on the wrong side of town, because as we would leave the high school soccer season, we would have a big tournament in Raleigh, North Carolina for our club team. And it would always be the middle of November when we're like knee deep in the middle of
conditioning.
Practice, scrimmages. And, now as a coach, I understand his frustration, having, been a coach myself now. But, so that was kind of usually the only little hiccup, but it wasn't too bad of a transition, and we usually get a little bit of time in between, maybe like a week or so.
Right, just to regroup a little bit and take a breather.
Catch your breath,
Was there any thoughts of playing in college? I mean, was there any recruitment that went on for you for either sport?
There was a little bit for soccer. I had looked to play at Butler, but I was so burnt out.
Were you?
Yeah, I really was. I just had been playing year-round season. I'd played some AAU for basketball, played club soccer, since really kind of like the third grade, and I was exhausted. Yeah. I had always wanted to play in college, and I really, just by the time kind of junior, senior year rolled around, I don't know, I just wasn't as keen on it, and I ended up playing club soccer at Ohio State. I don't know if you remember the name Mary Cavanaugh at all, but she was a senior my freshman year at Anderson, and she ended up going to Ohio State and convinced me to come check it out, and it ended up being the greatest experience. The club soccer scene at big schools like that, it's like playing D2 somewhere. Correct. We traveled, played the Big Ten schedule. We got official letters from the Ohio State athletic director to miss class. We had, official Ohio State Nike uniforms. I mean, it was an awesome experience, and traveled on the weekends, practiced every day, but you still had a life. And, it was really...
It wasn't 24/7, but it was...
Right. It was serious enough for people who, had played soccer their whole life. We even had a couple girls who quit the Ohio State soccer team and came and played with us. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was a good decision in hindsight, but
that's what a lot of people don't understand is, I mean, especially in D1, right? I mean, it's a job.
Oh yeah,
and then some. I mean, it's not just 40 hours a week.
No,
and then on top of that, you got to have studies and be in shape and all that.
I know. I don't really have any what ifs about that. I really feel like it kind of worked out how it was supposed to, and the Ohio State experience. I'm a huge sports fan, and so being able to have the football experience there, and not, you know what I mean, that was definitely something that that I enjoyed.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you about that, because I, like myself, I guess I didn't really understand the whole club soccer thing, even when I was growing up. When we were growing up with the Cardinals and all that, like how that all worked. Like it was just what you were just saying. So you played the Big Ten schedule, you played all that. So is that part of the athletic program, and they fundraise? I mean, how does that work then?
So I'm not sure if it's the exact same now, but when I was up in Columbus, it was definitely, we got some money from the school, and then we did some fundraising ourselves on the side to kind of offset some of the costs. But it was very reasonable. Definitely way cheaper than club soccer, like playing for the Cardinals or OE these days. But we definitely, you could kind of try to make your class schedule around practice time. But obviously, if you had class, that was priority. But it was, it was just a great experience, and it was kind of my version of a sorority, because it was difficult to do both. There were a couple girls that were in sororities at Ohio State that ended up quitting the sororities to play soccer, just because you couldn't really manage both at the times.
And they paid for your travels and paid for uniforms and all that stuff. God, that's crazy.
We definitely fundraised a little bit, but we didn't have to fund everything by any means. I mean, you obviously have like your own gear and stuff, because everyone that was playing had played pretty competitively.
So who did you play?
So we would play a lot of the local, we play UC, Xavier, Dayton, OU, we would play Michigan State. We would go to a tournament that was always held at IU every fall, and you would have teams come from, so Purdue would be there, Notre Dame would be there.
That's pretty cool.
My freshman year, we went to nationals down at the University of Alabama. Teams came from all over the country.
It's cool.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So did you guys have to fundraise for travel?
A little bit, but
for buses or?
Yeah, we took a bus down to Alabama. I know at some point after I graduated, the nationals were in Arizona and they flew. So I don't know if they had to pay for everything or paid for part of it, but I don't remember having to pay for a whole lot, honestly.
I know somebody that played club men's soccer at Miami.
Okay.
But this was in the 80s, and he was saying that when they would travel, they were on their own, and they'd show up at UC, and they were hoping guys would they would
have enough guys.
They would be strolling in right at kickoff, and so I didn't know how that traveled.
That's what I was imagining.
We traveled together. No, we would have Ohio State vans. We took a chartered bus down to Alabama for that tournament, the nationals. So,
that's really cool.
Yeah, so we would all leave together, and it was kind of cool. Our practice field was actually right next to the stadium.
Yeah, really.
So we would always practice right after the band, and the last thing the band would always do would be Script Ohio. So we would be sitting there watching them kind of do their last practice. Yeah.
So how much did you love Ohio State?
A lot. Yeah. Yeah, I was not a happy camper this year with the Michigan game. So
my daughter's a freshman at Ohio State.
Oh, okay. Does she like it?
She loves it.
They suck you in up there.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah. No, she is all in.
Yeah. It is a massive campus, and that made me nervous at first, but because it is so big, they've got something for everyone. So regardless of your interest, you can find a group, you can find something to join.
Yeah. They got this place, it's called the Union. Mm-hmm. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's the student union.
It's like a mini mall.
It's beautiful.
It's unbelievable. I mean,
is that where you made an idiot out of yourself?
No. That was at a frat house.
Yeah, that wasn't. They had a student union when I was there, but they updated a ton of my senior years when they started to do some of this construction down on High Street.
Okay.
And
they're still doing that.
I know it's never ending on a campus. I feel like.
So where'd you stay your freshman year?
I lived on the North Campus at Ohio State my freshman year, which was the place to be then. Now it's flipped to kind of South Campus because they redid a bunch of the dorms down there.
Yeah, she's in Patterson, which is on the south side.
Yeah. So it's kind of flip flopped a little bit, and then I lived off campus the rest of my time there.
Okay.
With some soccer girls. We had we called it the soccer house. It was a duplex. There were 5 of us on one one side and 5 of us on the other. And we would do things with the boys club soccer team, hang out with them, kind of do some different activities and, fundraisers. And
that's what I was getting ready to ask was, so they had not just soccer, but like, would they have basketball club?
Oh yeah, they've got everything. I think even have club football, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Like rugby? I'm sure I know they did rugby. A lot of schools do rugby.
Club soccer, they got all the sports, club baseball, everything.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's really
cool.
It
was a lot of fun. It was nice to feel like you kind of quote unquote played in college a little bit without having to give up your entire life,
right? Yeah, you started a life.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned something about coaching. Mm-hmm. So where did you coach, or are you still coaching?
So I'm not coaching anymore, but I coached soccer and basketball at Wyoming at the high school when I was teaching. I was an assistant for both of them a couple of years, and then I was the head soccer coach for about 6 years, and then stayed the assistant for basketball for about 8 total. Wow. So I haven't coached probably in about 3 or 4 years.
Who was the head coach for basketball?
It was at first Angie Edmonds.
Yes. Timmy Edmonds' wife.
Yes. Yeah. And so Angie teaches at Wyoming. She's one of my really good friends. She teaches English.
Okay.
And she was actually a funny story. She was Jerry Lackey's assistant at Mason when I was in high school playing against them. Yeah.
Really?
So then Angie stepped down. She had 2 boys. They play in sports in college.
Tim was the coach.
And so Jerry Lackey ended up coming to coach at Wyoming because he lives in Wyoming. Okay. And Jerry was the coach at Mason with Michelle Munoz when they won state and went undefeated.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of a full circle moment just to kind of, because they would crush us when we were my freshman year at Anderson. Because, like I said, they had like seven of their players went Division I. It was ridiculous.
So in that coaching aspect of it, I mean, how was that experience? Like was there some things like you were relating, like you're talking about with Carletti, you're like, oh, yeah, you kind of get.
Yeah, it is. It's funny, like when you're in high school and playing sports when you're in your teens, you think you're working hard. And then you become an adult and you coach and you're like, man, I probably could have worked a lot harder. In terms of just watching the high schoolers and you know what I mean?
Yep.
Definitely changes your perspective a bit and had a greater appreciation for the coaches I've had in terms of just the things they put up with and just how hard it is and you take it home with you and it's personal and sleepless nights and just the time commitment that goes into it. But it was fun. I enjoyed it, but it was time for a break. It just it was my nights, it was my weekends. I was teaching 2 APs at the high school at the time, and that was just a lot. So I something had to give. So
wow. Gotta have that balance.
So it was fun though. I mean, it was fun to be back under the lights. Play out on the sideline for soccer and the tournament games are always fun. But we had some good teams, some good athletes that went on to play in college for soccer and basketball at Wyoming that I had coached. So good experiences. Just, you get to know the girls in a different way and they get to know me, not just as a teacher, but as a person. And it just builds rapport and I'm still really good friends with some of them today that are now in their late 20s, So,
which is amazing.
How about the boys winning the state championship?
I know, it's really awesome.
Coach Jones, former Anderson coach.
I know, and the girls lost in PKs in the state finals.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so they played on a Friday, and the girls lost in penalty kicks, and then the boys played Saturday and won.
Oh my gosh.
It was such a cool experience. I was home on maternity leave that week. I just had, my husband and I just had our baby that first week in November.
Okay.
And so I wasn't at school for that, but everyone just said that
it's crazy.
The vibe at school was awesome. Just to have one team make it to state is hard enough, but to have both,
crazy.
It was pretty cool.
That's pretty fun.
Awesome.
Well, so tell us about your family. So I know you're married and you got a husband that's in the sports and you have a child now.
Right. So my husband Keith, he grew up in Cincinnati. He went to Moeller.
Okay.
He was 02, but we met at Wyoming. So our classrooms are down the hall from each other.
Really?
Okay. So he coaches football currently. He does. He's offensive coordinator and QB coach. Coached basketball for a long time. Used to coach baseball too. too, so really involved. But he's a big Notre Dame football fan, so our falls Saturdays are competitive.
Just got to ask, did he go to the UC game and Notre Dame game and UC won? Did he happen to go to that?
No, he did not. That was a tough one because he loves UC. He went to UC, and obviously with Evan Prater, he coached Evan, so he was going to be happy either way.
Yeah.
But Ohio State and Notre Dame play in September, the first game of the year up in Columbus.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm going to have to ask my parents to babysit my daughter so we can head up to Columbus for that one.
That's got to be crazy. With that's some demanding hours as a football coach.
It is very demanding. I mean, they put in a lot of hours. I mean, he's getting home, sometimes 11 o'clock midnight on Friday night after, a long day at school. He's out the door at 7 a.m. for their, team meeting, doing film. Yep. He's watching film usually on Sundays while we're watching the Bengals game. Yep. I mean, it's a lot. Putting his spreadsheets together, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. You got to love it.
Yeah, he does. He does love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot, though. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
And you just had a baby?
We did. So we had a little girl, thank you, back in November. Her name's Elizabeth. We're calling her Libby.
All right.
So will be 4 months next week. She'll be 16 weeks next week.
She was born in
November 2nd.
So was the football season over yet?
No, they were still.
Playoffs.
I had Libby on a Tuesday, and Keith was coaching that Friday night in the playoff game. So I had my parents come over to help me while he was gone.
Timing.
Yeah.
Did you happen to see the Rams receiver?
Yeah,
Jefferson?
Van Jefferson.
They told him right there as they're celebrating. He runs off.
And he took off.
How crazy is that?
And he made it. Yeah.
I know. I read that his wife told the Rams, don't tell him, until after. I want him to stay and play, which that's pretty nice of her. I have to say.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay, I owe you one.
Yeah. That's a cool story. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Sad about the outcome.
Yeah.
It's not a pretty scene in our house.
No, it still stings, but I guess we should feel fortunate that they were even there.
That's true. I think what's so frustrating is I feel like they should have won.
I know.
They should have.
You're right there. I would have almost rather lost by 3 touchdowns.
I agree.
Maybe.
No.
But to be right there to have that chance.
And again, and you and I talked about this, and I'm sure your husband probably said the same thing, is why Joe Mixon wasn't in the game at the end, why P-Ron didn't die for that ball at the end.
Yeah.
Just there's so many things.
And Jamar Chase was wide open. It looked like Jalen Ramsey had fallen or something. I don't know.
The drama if as Joe's falling down and he sees Jamar is able to get that throw off.
Yeah.
I would have puked. I would have puked. I would have been crying and puking at the same time.
I'm glad it's puking.
Oh my God.
I know. I think they're going to be really good for the next 5 to 10 years, but it's hard to get back there.
Well, I'm telling you what.
It is.
We've talked about it. Bring Andrew Norwell back.
That's what I've heard a couple people say that.
Bring Andrew Norwell back.
He's a free agent this year.
He is.
That's what I saw.
Love to have him back.
Protects Joe's blind side there.
Yes, I would love to have him back. So that'd be, I don't know, kind of crazy. So
I know.
You did kind of mention some of the people from high school. Is there anybody, like Steve and I have been high school friends, went to college, is there anyone else that you're really close to that you talked to from high school?
Yeah, so actually we just got married summer 2020. We were a March 2020 wedding actually, and they shut the state down like 6 days before our wedding.
Wow.
So we had to push it back, but all of my bridesmaids are my friends from high school.
Oh wow.
They were, we had a group of 7 of us, and so the 6 of them and my sister were the bridesmaids, and so some of them I've already mentioned, but Leslie Pentecost was one of them. She was a cheerleader for Stacey Bailey. Sarah Marquitos was a swimmer. Lindsay Williams, and then Alexis Coy, who's now Kenny's wife.
Yep, sure.
Yeah, Alexis played golf and ran track and did cheerleading. So
awesome.
They're my good group of friends. Stay in touch. We just did a mom's night out the other weekend.
Perfect.
Yeah, we went downtown.
Much needed.
Yes, yeah, it was not quite the days that they used to be. Going out anymore. It was like 10 o'clock. I'm like, oh my God, I'm ready to go to bed. So we still keep in touch, and Anderson is funny. There's everyone I feel like still has their close friends, their groups. Even if you don't see each other all the time, it's you pick right up where you left off. And
you know what, Lauren, the one thing we talked with Kenny that Steve and I talked about is like, even though like, you know, Steve and I graduated, you know, way back when, like I know Kenny, I know his brother Daniel, I know Carol, you know, so there's a lot of people, even though the difference, even with you, age difference, it's like we've all kind of went to high school at the same time. That's what it feels like to us.
Still a connection.
Right.
Yeah, it is. That's Anderson's got a great community like that, and I feel like makes it a lot of fun. And I'm excited to raise Libby, my daughter, here in Anderson, and I hope she can go to Maddox and, you know, Anderson have the same experience I did. And
awesome.
Something to kind of look forward to.
I mean, that's what kind of makes Anderson so special. I think is just the friends, the community. A lot of people come back. And I think it's just the community and how everybody is.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely has a very homey feel to it, and I feel like you've still got. I know all of my friends' parents, for the most part, still live here, or they're in the same houses that they were. It is. I was living in Hyde Park for a while, and then my husband and I bought a house back here, and it was just fun to kind of drive the streets again. And you know, I would come back here all the time because my parents are still here. But
where's your husband from?
He grew up in the Kenwood, Silverton area.
Okay.
So he went to Moeller. Yeah, he played volleyball there.
Okay.
So
volleyball.
Yeah.
Volleyball back in the day when we were playing was the underhand serve, wasn't it? When we were playing, it wasn't the high, you know.
They were good when he was there. I don't know if they won
East Fork Lake.
That's crazy. So we're gonna try to go ahead and wrap this up. But the one thing that we want to try to do, and kind of putting you on a spot here, is kind of give us your favorite high school memory, and then maybe like a college memory, and if you don't have those, like maybe a favorite coach or teacher.
Okay. Favorite high school memory. There are a lot to choose from. I would have to probably say, probably my senior year, we had a great group of girls on the soccer team, and we made a little bit of a run in the soccer tournament. We lost in the quarterfinals to McNick on in double overtime. But that, even though it was a sad memory, it was something that we still talk about to this day, because we were that close from making it to the district finals, and we would have played Turpin. We had a bunch of the girls from our club team that played Turpin, but a lot of great memories. I don't know that I could honestly choose from one of them, but a bunch of the girls too. We went on this backpacking trip the summer going into our senior year of high school. One of the dads and the girls' family were big backpackers. We went out to the Rockies for a week.
That's cool.
It was probably one of my favorite experiences. But I had a lot of great teachers. I still keep in touch with some of them. But probably Nancy Hands was probably my favorite teacher for social studies. I had her for 2 years. She was my homeroom teacher. Used to babysit her kids. I would watch her dog when they would go out of town. Still keep in touch with her. She took us to the Renaissance one year, our entire sophomore class. I'll never forget this because as a teacher now, I'm I don't know how she did that. Took our entire grade to the Renaissance, and I remember she couldn't remember if they forgot something at school, and so there were about 15 school buses, maybe not that many, it was 10, that pulled over on 275, one after the other, and she went out of the first school bus running down the highway to the back to the last school bus. I forget who the assistant principal was at the time, but it was one of the administrators who, this was pre-cell phone, so there was no so she couldn't just call, and so she had to go ask them if they had the tickets or something to that effect. But
that's
probably
crazy.
I will probably never take an entire grade to the Renaissance Festival.
Did they have the tickets?
They did, so we didn't have to turn around. But she was a lot of fun, and she just made class entertaining, and I still keep in touch with her a little bit today. But like I said, a lot of great teachers. Part of why I wanted to become a teacher myself, just some of the relationships I had. But yeah, it was a great experience at Anderson, and I know not everyone had that experience. High school can be tough and tricky for people, but I feel fortunate that I had a good group of friends, involved parents, and just had a great time with my sports days, and a lot of life lessons lessons wrapped up in that. So
absolutely, that's awesome. Yeah. That's just it's always great, and I'm glad that Kenny kind of brought on, because sometimes we forget because we've been so far removed from high school and we don't know some of these things and what you've all accomplished and everything. So for Kenny to get us hooked up with you, I really appreciate that.
I know you sent me a text and asked if I'd be interested. So I've seen your guys' podcast before. So yeah, it was fun to kind of jump on here and reminisce a little bit.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. I have to try to see if I can get Corey on here, see if she'll get on here with me.
You should.
She probably would. I think. I get her. Not Dan though. Dan and I will go at it though, I think.
Corey's awesome.
Yeah, I love Corey.
She's a good one.
Yeah, she's awesome. We really appreciate you joining us here. So we're gonna wrap it up. So for Steve Ellis, Dan Albers, and Lauren Gruber Jordan, you've been watching This Week in Anderson. We'll catch you next week.